Hi there, I'm Sam of Samwise Coaching and Hypnosis, certified hypnotherapist, health coach, and personal trainer. And welcome to this first video in the three-part series where I'll be teaching you how to lose weight naturally, permanently, to arrive at a weight that is healthy for you, and probably most importantly, feel in control around food again. How am I going to do this? It's actually really simple. I'm just going to have you focus on two things. First, eating only when you're actually hungry, keyword actually. And second, generating good feelings in the body, the good feelings that come from happy hormones like dopamine and serotonin. And that's what your brain has been going for when it's urged you to seek food when you're not actually hungry. I'm just going to offer you a better way to do that now. So two things, that's it. How are we going to do this? Well, the first element, eating only when you're actually hungry, you actually have to know when you're actually hungry. So let me ask you, how do you actually know when you personally are hungry? For some, they might say, well, my stomach is growling. That's a pretty good indication. That's a good one. Other cues perhaps are the feelings of feeling lightheaded or shaky, but that could also be because you need fluids. So all this is to say that sometimes it can get a little trickier to know if you are actually hungry or not. So let's fix that. I want to introduce you to the concept of the hunger scale. So I want you to think about a hunger scale very similar to a gas tank, as you can see. On your left, you have the number 1, and that means you're starving. So much so that you would eat grass or something like that to fill that hunger. And it's like empty on the gas tank. Typically, when you allow yourself to get that hungry, you're going to overeat. You're going to eat faster. You're going to make poor food choices, eating everything that's in front of you. And you're probably going to eat way past the point of being actually satisfied. So on the other side, though, the F, the full, you have the number 10. And that means you're stuffed. And I not just stuffed, but like Thanksgiving full. So full you might actually feel sick. I want you to think about this almost like the gas tank is about to overflow. So using this scale, the second half, 6 through 10, signifies that you're anywhere from satiated to stuffed. So I want you to only think about eating when you're between a 4 to a 5. Great, Sam. How do I know that I'm actually there? Let me tell you about that. Okay, so at a 4, there's probably going to be actually a literal hunger cue. Maybe your stomach is growling or something like that. That's pretty obvious. But the difference between a 5 and a 6, I get it. That can be a little trickier. So I've come up with a tool. And I shouldn't say I've come up. I'll give due credit where it's due in a second. But this tool, it's called the broccoli test. This thing has changed my life. Okay, maybe not my life, but it's definitely changed how I eat. And it's just, it like, boom, mind blown. And it's so easy. The broccoli test helps you retrain your brain and learn if you're actually hungry or something else. And I learned this. I got to give due credit, right? This was created by my mentor Erica Flint, and she's out of Cascade Hypnosis Center in Bellingham, Washington. And I'm just so excited to share it with you because, as I said, it was a game changer for me. It's ingenious. Here's how it works. If you think you're actually hungry, all you need to do is ask yourself, "Am I hungry enough that I need broccoli?" Now, if you don't like broccoli, bear with me. We'll address that. But for now, let's work with this as an example, and then we'll customize it for you. So if the answer is yes, if you are hungry enough that you'd eat broccoli, then yeah, you're hungry and you can eat something healthy. And we'll get more into that later. But for now, back to the broccoli test. If the answer is no, well, then you're not actually hungry. And the third step is that you have to do something else. This is how we know for a fact that this is emotional eating. Your brain is just asking you to do something to make you feel better. It's craving those feel-good hormones, as I mentioned earlier, the dopamine, the serotonin, and it's likely that you were doing something hard or stressful or you're bored. So the key here is that you have to do something else other than what you were doing. And here's why. Many people get to this step 3, and they realize, oh, no, I guess I'm not hungry because I wouldn't eat broccoli. But then they just go back to work or whatever it was they were doing, the stressful thing, whatever. Um, so 5 minutes later, they haven't given the brain the pleasure that it wanted. Instead, they just went back to what the brain wanted to get away from. So the urge hasn't gone away. In fact, it's gotten stronger now. So then people find themselves back at the fridge and they're thinking, oh, well, I guess I must be hungry. When they're not. They just didn't give the brain what it wanted. I like to make this comparison to further illustrate this point. It's kind of like when you need to go pee. What happens when you need to go pee and you don't go? Maybe you distract yourself for a little bit, right? But then 10 minutes later, the sensation for needing to relieve yourself comes back, but now it's stronger. It's more urgent. It's more insistent. And that's your brain being like, hey, I told you and you didn't listen. So I guess I'm going to have to be louder now. So if you just go back to whatever it is you were doing without meeting the needs of the brain, which was telling you, I want to be happy, you'll once again get that idea to go get food a few minutes later, only this time it's going to be worse. It's going to be stronger, more insistent. So we have to meet the need of the brain. And I'll show you how to do that shortly. But for now, let's start with the broccoli test. Let's customize this to you. I want you to ask yourself, is broccoli a good example of a food that you would only eat if you were actually hungry? Or is there another food that better resonates for you? So the key is to pick something that's kind of ho-hum, bland, not it's not very exciting, but not disgusting. We don't want to pick something you hate or that you have to be desperate to eat, because that means you're at a 1 or a 2 on the hunger scale. And when you're that low, you're more likely to overeat on something. It also creates fear and deprivation in the body. And these are long term, that's not good. We're building a sense of distrust. So no, 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 no. And you don't want to pick something that you think appears healthy, but that you'd eat lots of if you were bored. So a common example here is fruit, or red peppers. Like these have a sweetness to them that makes them really highly palatable. If I had red peppers in front of me, I'd just start eating them because they're really good. I don't know, maybe you don't like them, but I do. I'd eat them. So what's happening here is that your brain will try and trick you into thinking that you are actually hungry. But really, like red peppers, I'd eat that out of boredom because they're good, right? So, well, to each his own, but I like them. So if you were looking in the fridge and you would turn down broccoli or something bland, something ho-hum but not disgusting, yet you're still hungry enough to eat a mango or an apple or those sweet peppers, then that's a good sign that you might not actually be feeling physiological hunger. So we're really just looking for a food that, yeah, I'd eat that if I were hungry. And in my experience, for most people, that's typically a raw vegetable, no dip, no hummus, not sautéed in butter, no salt, just a plain raw vegetable. And if you're having a hard time choosing, that's okay. You don't have to get it all perfect. And it may even take some experimentation for a bit. Like me, myself, I started with broccoli. But then I found in the winter months, I would turn down broccoli because I was cold, and eating raw broccoli out of the fridge was just going to make me colder. So I didn't want to eat it out of coldness, right? Like, yet I was hungry. So that's not a very good test. So at that time, I actually changed it to plain cooked chicken. Warm, but not very enticing, right? It's just plain. So that's something that I would only eat if I was actually hungry. Not bored, not stressed. It doesn't excite me. I'm like a red pepper, apparently. So take a moment now just to think about what works for you. What is one food you would only eat if you were actually hungry? And once you know, put it on a piece of paper. Literally write it down. Am I hungry enough that I would eat fill in the blank? Then I want you to put it on your fridge. I want you to put it on your cupboards. Make it a screensaver on your phone. Put it anywhere you find it beneficial to put so that it just makes you stop, breaks the autopilot. You stop and you ask this question before defaulting to food. I want you to do this because visual reminders help us out big time. It's like a big stop sign or a warning sign on the side of the road, keeping you safe from moving forward without thinking. And we want this question, this pattern interrupt, easily accessible because the brain, it loves simple, binary, yes, no questions. It takes, essentially what we're doing is we're taking the pressure off of, am I actually hungry or not? It uses less brain power in our already full and stressful lives. And it helps our brains conserve energy, which just makes the whole process easier. Okay, so let's say you ask the question, am I hungry enough that I'd eat broccoli? You're either going to get a yes or no response. So what do you do next? Let's start with no. No, I'm not hungry enough that I would eat broccoli or whatever it is, right? Well, that is just awesome. This is how we know for sure that your brain just wants to feel better. And the key now is to give it a healthy way to do that. One that doesn't come with the guilty residue or the long-term consequences of eating when you're not actually hungry. We have to give your brain what I call a new default response. What's that? I'll tell you in the next video. See you there.